everybody. This is Dr. Herbin with the Married to My Purpose podcast. How is everybody doing out there? I hope and pray that your day has been well. I am looking forward to talking about some good stuff today, okay? I want to talk about some ways to show your self-love. Now, last week we talked about the different types of fear and the things that we impress upon our lives, our mind, our souls, and our spirits. We don't want to be fearful. We don't want to be afraid, but we do want to make sure that we take time to take care of ourselves. And so today we'll talk a little bit about a few ways to show ourselves love. Now, when we talk about loving ourselves, in some instances, people think that showing yourself love is buying a new car, maybe, getting a new hairstyle, kind of like I have. Somebody was just talking to me about, did you cut your hair? No, I'm like, no, I need to get it cut. But getting a new hairstyle, maybe buying a new outfit, or even investing. It really depends on the person. It really depends on the person in terms of how we can show ourselves love. But I think, and I really believe that in order for us to show ourselves love outwardly, we have to show ourselves love inwardly first, right? Now, here's one of the things that I feel we should do to show ourselves love. We have to check the downer voice in our heads. What does that mean? Checking the downer voice in our head is making sure we're not telling ourselves things that are not true. We shouldn't be telling ourselves what we aren't. We shouldn't be criticizing the things that we have not done, but instead sharing in those moments and those small wins or even big wins of the things that we have accomplished. So we have to silence those negative thoughts, silence the downer voice in our head. I'm not going to wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I really need to lose 10 pounds but I really like cream soda and I really like pound cake. So I'm never going to gain this. I'm never going to lose this weight because I'm eating stuff that's going to make me gain weight. So you're going to always be chunky, Serelda. That's an example. Now, I'm not going to always be chunky because I'm going to take the discipline to love myself enough to not eat those things, to not refrain and not to continue to drink cream sodas. That could be a treat every now and then. But I'm not going to have those voices in my head to tell me you'll never lose the pounds. You'll never lose 10 pounds. Matter of fact, you'll never lose the weight. And we have to tell ourselves that in terms of those positive affirmations. Many times we show up, the first thing we'll say is, oh my goodness, I forgot to do this. What is wrong with me? What happened to me? Instead of, I'm going to get up. Yes, I missed the mark, but I am going to try again and keep going. That's it. That's all. Now, what about the second one? Admitting when things stink. It is okay to understand that life happens. It is okay to understand that life goes through changes. It goes through transitions, things that we may not even expect. Okay. I didn't expect 10 years ago that I would be divorced today. I didn't expect 10 years ago that I would be in a job that I'm in today. I didn't expect 20 years ago that I would have written 4 to 5 books at this point in my life and working on 4 or 5 more. I didn't think I would be a published author, let alone a best-selling author for several books. Okay? So in order for us to admit when those things stink in our lives, we cannot skirt around it. We can feel. We have the opportunity to be honest with ourselves. And that's the key. Being honest. Some days are not great. It doesn't mean that that day doesn't exist, though. There may be some bad days, but that day still exists. The day still exists, even though it may have been a bad day, right? So what are we going to do when we have those days and things just stink? They just stink. Listen, My grandma used to tell me, it doesn't matter if you put lipstick on the pig, it's still a pig. And you can't get mad at the pig because the pig goes to waddle in the mud. You wash the pig, you put perfume on the pig, you put lipstick on the pig is still going to get dirty. Acknowledging where you are. Author Ash says, start where you are, do what you can, and use what you got. Using what you got, starting where you are, and doing what you can, it simply means I am in the moment. I am seizing that moment. I am aware of where I am in life. And I'm going to use everything in my power, my skills, my talents, and my possessions to maximize that moment. There may be some stinky things in that moment, but we're not going to quit. Why? We still have breath in our bodies. We still have good health. We still have the ability to have activity of our limbs. We can move around. We have fingers to type. We have a voice to speak. We have feet to move into situations where we can make some things happen in our lives in spite of the stinkiness around us. Life stinks sometimes, but we have the ability to get up and move. Of which number 3, put your hand on your heart. Just like this, literally. Like when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we're giving a form of endearment and respect and honor and patriotism to our flag in that respect. But when we put our hands on our hearts, when we're talking about ourselves, when we're talking about loving ourselves, there's a certain type of feeling that comes when you put your hand over your heart. I have gotten into the habit of when someone says, for example, I sang the national anthem during a Memorial Day event this past Saturday. And everybody kept saying, you did an amazing job. And some people were across the room, right? Because we're in the middle of a program. So instead of me screaming out, oh my God, thank you so much, I just put my hand over my heart. It was a sign to say, number one, I appreciate you, but also it was an honor. But it also made me feel humble that someone would say that I did a great job. So sometimes putting our hands over our heart, even when no one is giving us a compliment, we can give ourselves a compliment. I am still alive. I survived that thing that I was going through in that season. I'm still surviving some things in the season that I'm in right now as I transition into some amazing opportunities that I have. And I'm just telling myself, you're worth it. You're amazing. You have the ability to do anything. You have the ability to do hard things, just like I do. So, what are those things that we have to do in order to keep those downer voices out of our heads, admit when things stink, and making sure that we're putting our hand on our heart to remind ourselves of how amazing we are? What are those things? What do we need to do? Number one, we need to be intentional. We have to be intentional about our lives. We have to be intentional about the things that we put our minds to. I am in the middle of building, yes, the Married to My Purpose National Conference. If you have not registered, www.marriedtomypurpose.com. You better go out there now because we've got some specials that we're running. So I need you all to plug in. You need to be in the room in El Paso, Texas, August 2nd through the 4th. Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. Saturday all day, and then Sunday. I need you to be there. But anyway, I need you to be intentional. What have you done today that was intentional about your purpose, about loving yourself? Loving yourself, watch this, is part of your purpose. There is no way that you can walk, operate in your purpose without understanding that you have to love yourself first. You have to love yourself first. Being mindful of the times, being mindful of who you are, being mindful of your weaknesses, and being mindful of those opportunities to grow. Some things we just have to grow through, and we have to be mindful of that. Some things we are not mindful of. So we have to take the time not only to be intentional, but we also have to be mindful. In order to be intentional and in order to be mindful, we've got to move. We have got to move. There is no way that, for example, if someone wants to build a multi-million dollar company or a multi-million dollar enterprise and you do no movement towards your purpose, we've got to move. I've got to move. Having been in the federal government my entire professional career, I understand that in order for me to get to where I want to be, which is not ultimately to die out of or retire out of the federal government and sit in my blinged out rocking chair, that's not all that I want to do. There's more that I want to do in life. So I've got to get up and move. I got to move in different circles. I got to interact with different people. I've got to connect with different conferences. I've got to show up in spaces that may be a challenge for me. The unknown is part of movement. What about taking a pause? Some days we've got to just take a breath. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been working on something all day and you just had to take a pause? Have you ever had a conversation with someone and after that conversation you felt like you were holding your breath and all you could do was, I'm glad that's over. Some days you take a pause and you just put your hand on your mouth, on your face, and just say, wow, that was a lot. So it's okay to take a pause, but it's not okay to quit. So being intentional, being mindful, making sure in order to be intentional and mindful, we have to move. And once we do the moving, we've got to understand that it's okay to take a pause. And when you take that pause, it gives you the opportunity to dream again. It gives you the opportunity to think again. It gives you the opportunity to reset because there's a lot of information that goes in and out of our minds every day, every second. So in order for us to be effective in that, we got to remember that we can imagine. We've got to imagine in order to maximize our creativity. And we want to navigate all of this with effectiveness, with clarity, and with intentionality. Understanding there's a group of people that are called to you. And the love that you do every day for yourself, other people are going to see that. They're going to say there's something different about you. They're going to say, I like the way you keep yourself up. You are well kept, is what my granny used to say. So I want you to think about that. When you are thinking about loving yourself, you know, in the Bible, as a Christian, it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I want to be able to say, Serelda so loved herself that she took time to invest in her purpose. She took time to understand that she is married to her purpose. What about you? You loved yourself so much that you did what? You're loving yourself so much that you're doing what? What are you doing? It's easy for us to say, oh, I love myself. Show it. Prove it. execute it, activate it. Because sometimes when we say we're loving ourselves, we don't treat ourselves right. I want you all to take the time this week, over the next couple of days, and think about how you have been loving yourself. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing yet to do it. Be intentional, be mindful, make sure you move in it. Also understanding that pausing along the way, taking a strategic pause and resting is important, but also imagining where you want to be. You want to have rules, guidelines, boundaries for how you love yourself. It's just not something you throw together. Loving yourself is intentional, and you don't want to handle it any kind of way. You don't want to handle yourself any kind of way. So as we close out this segment tonight, I want you to think about that. How am I not loving myself best right now? What things or people have I allowed to take me off course where I'm not loving myself? It's time to love yourself. In order for you to be married to your purpose, you have to love yourself first. So I encourage you, focus on loving yourself this week. I also encourage you, and I'm going to put a shameless plug in here as we close out, www.marriedtomypurpose.com. We are hosting our first national conference in El Paso, Texas, at the Skyline Entertainment Center, August 2nd through 4th. I need you to be in the house. We are going to, listen, it's going to be self-love on steroids. You got to be there. Self-love on steroids, man. Listen, get in the room. Go out to Eventbrite. Go out to marriedtomypurpose.com and register. Bring a friend. You do not want to miss this movement. Okay? So listen, folks, you all have an amazing night. And remember, be married to your purpose first. There is no way that you can go into any other covenant unless you are in covenant with yourself. Okay? I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye now.